The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be live.
Greetings, my fellow warriors, we're Meckanimal, and today we're going to answer the question or the concern about whether or not your knee should get past your toes during the squat. Over and over again, this is some suggestion, or I'll go even beyond and say that those are orders that you hear from trainers or fitness professionals that will suggest or force you to keep your knees before your toes, and in that manner forbid you to track past your toes during the squat. The answer is no. I mean, your knee can get past your toes, and it will be absurd to make it a rule that during a squat your knee should not get past your toes. However, you will have to know how to properly squat, right? Follow the proper procedure, how to load the proper muscle during the squat itself. And once you cover that, whether your knee get past your toes or not will be up to your anthropometry, the way your body proportions are designed. And one thing you should remember is during the squats, you want to delay as much as possible your knee from tracking past your toes. That's it. If you manage to delay as much as possible and you end up tracking past parallel, then that should not be a problem. And for all of us, we should be able to be comfortable with our knees past the toes after we break parallel, as long as we have a proper mobility in our hip. And here's what I'm talking about. Here's what I'm talking about. So let me demonstrate to you how to squat. So you just make sure that you break your hip first, right? To load up your glutes, because the way it works is whatever joints you load first is the one that get the stress. And a lot of time people start breaking the knee, so you load your knee up, and there's creating too much stress on the knee. So by the time you adjust, it's already too late. You apply too much stress in your knees. What you do is you break your hip first, you activate your glutes, you load it up, and then that's where you manage to keep your knee from tracking past. If you happen to be one of those with shorter tibia and longer femur, the level, the distance you're going to be covering with your knee before your toes, before you reach parallel, is going to be hard to manage. It's going to be hard to travel that distance and managing your knees before your toes. So that's what I'm saying. The best you can do is delay as much as possible, and you delay by actually, obviously keeping your spine neutral. And then, as soon as you get close to parallel, feel free to track. That's okay, as long as the pressure is in the middle of your foot and you apply the proper traction to keep the stability as it is supposed to be. Then it doesn't matter how far forward your knee track, as long as you have that proper anchor, you have that proper application of the load above. I mean, that's coming down. You should be good. It wouldn't matter that much how far forward your knee is tracking. So the key is to delay as much as possible the knee from getting past your toes. That's why it's a good cue to have in mind while you're squatting. But depending on how you built, it's gonna differ. I could, for example, be so because of my hip mobility, right? I could be so focused on keeping my knee before my toes that I can manage that up until I break parallel, and I still have it because my hip mobility is that great. And even if I was to rest up, disengage a little bit, and have my knee track past my toes, the pressure on my knee will be really negligible, because I already have everything dialed in, and the load is properly managed, and the muscle that's supposed to handle that load. So at that level, whether I relax and have my knee get past my toes, it won't affect much my my knee. However, on the way back up, that's why I'll have to shift back up again so that I can apply the load in the middle of my foot, and by pressing, you can see that I limit the amount of stress on my knee by loading the proper muscles. And depending on, again, on how you build, your knee will be here, 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 or even here. So it's not perfect. Everybody's different. But what you have to remember is the critical part is a little before parallel, a little after parallel. You want to delay as much as possible. At the bottom, complete at the ass to grass, you can relax and get your knee past your toes. It won't affect much. As soon as you about to get back out of the hole, that's where you will have to shift the load back again to the proper anchor in order to alleviate the load from your knees and avoid the long-term injury. Otherwise, if you were to push in that same position, you can easily see that everything is here, everything is in your toes, and it's almost impossible to harness enough power to squat. That's why people would usually tell you to keep your knees before your toes. But in real life, in a practical, from a practical perspective, it is almost impossible to keep your knees completely before your toes. It's all in how you shift the load properly through the squat motion itself to be able to keep your knees, healthy on the long term. So there you have it. I hope it's pretty clear and broken down the way it's supposed to. You don't have to keep your knees past, keep your knees from tracking past your toes. The key is to delay as much as possible the tracking past your toes, and as you descend in the hole, as soon as you break parallel and you feel comfortable, depending on what you're working on, your knee could track even sometime without relaxing, because of the way the proportion of your limbs. You will still be tracking way before you reach parallel, as long as you apply the pressure in the middle of your foot, creates enough traction by creating some torque, applying the pressure that you need clockwise and counterclockwise in your feet. You should be able to get the result needed. So that's that. Everything is, and we always be, the Meckanimal way. Like, comment, and subscribe, and appreciate the support. Salute, train steady.
The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be live.